Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. Got a video today for modern dating here. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Let's get that chow. It's chow time.
And they both were of the understanding at that point that she was going to refinance and get this taken care of right away. It's now more than 2 years later, and nothing's been done. Now we've learned that her intent is to not do so for another 18 months.
She has an intent to sell.
Give me a date.
I don't have a date, Your Honor. I don't. There is no date. I think that.
Okay. I will require that be done within 14 days of today's date.
Judge, could she have a little bit more time just due to the holidays? It's going to be difficult.
She's had sufficient time. She can do it within 14 days. Thank you.
After the divorce, the house was supposed to be sold, but she has been living in it for more than 2 years, and apparently she has no interest in selling it. But fortunately, the judge was able to understand what she was trying to do and put an end to it. He gave her 14 days.
Court will note the appearance of Ms. McNiff on behalf of the plaintiff, Ms. Thomas on behalf of the defendant. This matter is before the court on the defendant's motion to require plaintiff to comply with the judgment of divorce.
All right, so the issue is, of course, whether or not and when Ms. Tinsman has to respond or has to remove his name from the allegation. The concern is that now we've learned that her intent is to not do so for another 18 months. The problem, or to even list the house for sale for another 18 months, which would even be beyond that. But the problem of it is that it's affecting Mr. Gentry's credit. It's affecting his ability to do other things at his house and ownership of his house. And they both were of the understanding at that point that she was going to refinance and get this taken care of right away. It's now more than 2 years later, and nothing's been done. And it seems that Ms. Tinsman is of the belief that she can do this if and when she wants to. And it is affecting his credit. It is affecting, there's all kinds of excuses, but every excuse is one that frankly is under Ms. Tinsman's control. We just are asking for a date by when it needs to be done.
That's a fair request. She can't be living on the property indefinitely and expect him to be okay with it when it's affecting him.
Like, is he still paying for it? Like, this is where I'm like confused by what's going on here, but I'm assuming it's like a 50-50 thing. She has to refinance everything, so everything's in her name, right?
Just like her, he also wants to move on with his life. And this kind of situation will eventually prevent him from doing certain things, and it's not fair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McNiff, you talk about all sorts of things in the response. What's the date that she'll have this refinanced by?
Your Honor, as we responded in detail, the problem she's going to have is that the financing companies want her to have 2 years of either W-2 or 1099 wages, and she simply doesn't have that, and so she won't be able to refinance until then. She certainly wants to sell the house sooner than 18 months, but we need a resolution of the parenting time issue. I have to file a motion, I think, to resolve that and to get that to a hearing.
Okay,
but
that's not before mid-days.
No, I'm just, and I understand that. She has an intent to sell.
Give me a date.
I don't have a date, Your Honor. I don't.
The judge is a smart man and he knows what's going on. He is well aware that she already had enough time and opportunity to get this solved, and if she didn't do it until now is because she didn't want to. And by telling the judge that she doesn't have a date, it implies that she is planning to live there forever, not considering the guy who got his life on hold because of it.
But the big thing here, Judge, is a judgment of divorce for the property provisions is really a contract. And it's not for the court to reform the party's contract. It should have been on Mr. Gentry to ask for a date when he wanted his name off of that property. And without that being in the judgment,
somehow it's all of a sudden his fault. It's all the man's fault.
There is no date. I think that
okay, Mrs.
Tinsman will do it, but the judgment speaks for itself.
Okay, well, the court's not going to wait indefinitely for the plaintiff to qualify or whatever. And because we can't be given a date, the court is going to order that the house be sold, listed for sale forthwith, and be sold.
That was the right decision. The judge wasn't willing to play their game. If for some reason you weren't able to qualify to refinance the house because you either didn't want to or simply didn't meet the requirement, it means that you can't afford it.
Yep.
So what's the point of giving her more time when the outcome is likely to be the same? It doesn't make any sense. Just sell the house, as it's a better option for both.
At this point, if there's no date, that she's going to have to list it for sale and have it sold forthwith, and provide Ms. Thomas with the listing agreement. I will require that that be done within 14 days of today's date.
Judge,
I like this
because she had a
judge.
little bit more time just
Nope.
due to the holidays, it's going to be
She's had
difficult.
sufficient time. She can do it within 14 days. Thank you.
More time for what when she already lived there for over 2 years? Also, even if the judge considered her request, she isn't willing to give a date, so why was the lawyer asking for it? They should have taken that deal when he asked her if they had a time frame. That was the moment they should come up with a deadline. But instead, they decided to play a game, and
Yep.
now it's too late.
Now you're forced to
the house
sell.
must be on the market in 14 days, and soon she will have to find another place to live, as those 2 years were enough.
But the problem of it is that it's affecting Mr. Gentry's credit. It's affecting his ability to do other things at his house and ownership of his house.
This is what she should consider when trying to delay this process. Imagine
Well, she might be doing it purposely to screw the man over.
being unable to move on with your life just because your ex isn't willing to sell the house. That isn't a good feeling. And we know for sure nobody would appreciate being in his shoes, including her.
Of course.
It was clear that she had no plan to solve this anytime soon, and everyone saw that.
Pretty much wants a
including the
free
judge,
house.
And that's why he took that decision.
She has an
Give
intent
me
to
a date.
sell.
Give me a date.
I don't have a date, Your Honor. I don't.
If you like our video and would like to support our channel, don't forget to subscribe. It will help a lot. That's not a good answer. She said the finance company asked her clients for 2 years of employment history. But she forgot her client has been living there for over 2 years already.
Yep.
So that excuse isn't valid. Also, if we look at this case objectively, he doesn't have to stop his life just because she didn't qualify to refinance it. If she can't afford it or is struggling to keep it, she should move out so that it can get sold. There isn't a valid reason for someone who is no longer her partner to have his life on hold just because she didn't qualify to refinance the property. Even if what she said was true, it still doesn't make sense, as she has been living in the property for over 2 years and now she wants an indefinite time. It means she can easily use the same argument to stay there for another 5 or 10 years. Since they are no longer married, there is no reason he should be tied to her at this level. And she isn't considering the fact that it's affecting his finances and his ability to carry on with his life. One thing I like about this case was the judge's position. He was able to understand her intentions, and he knew it wouldn't be fair on her ex-husband. She wanted to delay this process as much as she could, but he wasn't having it. This is why he rejected her lawyer's suggestion to give her more time. Just like the judge, I also think those 2 years she spent there were enough, and now she will have to find another place to live.
Honestly, I really don't understand some women. One of the greatest managers in the history of football. Now, we know Manchester City, we know Pep Guardiola has been very, very stressed recently. They've done really bad this season. And a lot of it has to do with his domestic situation. Pep Guardiola has finally finalized his divorce with his wife. And apparently, she wants to take half of his wealth, which apparently she will take, and also his biggest mansion in Manchester and a load of properties that he also has. Now, this is crazy. She is leaving Pep Guardiola because she said he's too focused on his work. He's too endorsed in football. Apparently because he extended his contract at Manchester City, and that annoyed her and caused problems for her.
This is
What
a
I don't
whole
understand is this.
Tom Brady
Now,
all
I am
over
gonna
again.
say that I do not know what's happening in their personal lives, but I must say, how insulting to a man like Pep Guardiola, who dedicated his life to be one of the best managers in the sport, and he's got to the top and having to work so hard to get to the top, and you get big contracts, you get millions. Now it's those millions that have provided an absolute prestigious and luxuriated lifestyle, and now not only do you want to leave, you want to leave with half of it. Why don't you just go and leave him?
Yeah.
Why a prenup is necessary. From her
Well,
point,
even this, a prenup might not do anything. Like I'm sure all of these assets were earned while they were married.
He doesn't spend time with her. That's why when you choose some career, you don't get married. She sounds like these girls who get mad when their man goes to work. So she is basically complaining about the same work ethic that gave her the lifestyle she had.
Yep.
And on top of that, she also wants half of what that level of dedication helped him to acquire. That was interesting. I can't even imagine his disappointment after realizing that the sacrifice he thought he was making for his family was the same thing that led to their separation. This is the hardest part of this story. This is a man who most likely didn't want to travel all the time, but he did it anyway, thinking that his family would appreciate his efforts. But it didn't work as he expected. Now he knows most of it was in vain, and this is why many claim it's hard to make a woman happy, as even when you think you are doing everything right, she will still find a small gap to complain. Sometimes they are not happy because you aren't doing enough, and when you start doing, they will complain because you are doing too much, just like what happened to them. The funny part about it is that she knew his career path, so
Of course.
if she wasn't willing to be with someone who would be traveling constantly, she shouldn't have agreed to marry him. That would have spared both from all this drama. It would have been a better decision, as it would have given him the opportunity to find a woman who had no issues having a man like him by her side.
Shout outs to judges that are less biased nowadays, because I know like 10, 20 years ago, a lot of male judges, female judges were very biased against men. Just how the court system kind of viewed things. Now judges are seeing everything as art and, taking in facts. Thank God. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys next time.